Welcome to the UP Notable Books Club, brought to you by the Upper Peninsula Publisher and Authors Association. Sharon Dilworth is an award-winning novelist and short story writer whose work is deeply rooted in place, memory, and transformation. A graduate of Northern Michigan University, she now teaches creative writing at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. She is the author of 3 acclaimed story collections, The Long White, Women Drinking Benedictine, and 2 Sides, 3 Rivers, as well as the novels Year of the Ginkgo, My Riviera, and her newest release, To Be Marquette. Her fiction has been recognized with the Iowa Short Fiction Prize, a Pushcart Prize, and grants from both the National Endowment for the Arts and the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts.
Okay, I got 6 o'clock, and like always, we're so glad to have Sharon here with us. I'm going to turn this over to Victor for a few minutes, and he's going to update us on any UPPAA happenings. Take it away, Victor Volkman.
Thank you, Evelyn. I am Victor Volkman, the current president of the Upper Peninsula Publishers and Authors Association, and it really is our privilege to co-sponsor this with the Crystal Falls Library. Every month we have a different award winner of the UP Notable Book List. Now, this time of year, I get particularly excited about the UP Reader because we have almost exactly, let's say 60 days left for you to get together your submissions of poetry, memoir, fiction, really any kind of genre at all can be under consideration to appear in the next volume of the UP Reader. This is volume number 8, but the next one is particularly special in our hearts because it is volume number 10, our 10th anniversary. Can you believe that we've been doing this for 10 years? I can't. But in order to contribute as an author to the UP Reader, you must first join UPPAA. Head on over to www.uppaa.org and click on Join or Renew. And for the low price of $50, you can become a UPPAA member, and you will have the ability to contribute stories to the UP Reader. You'll be invited to join us on May 16th, 2026 in the beautiful Marquette, Michigan, as we have our annual spring conference coming up. There's some really exciting tracks, more than I had time to tell you about, but we sponsor programs all year round. We're just gearing up for the Dandelion Cottage short story contest, which will feature young writers from around the UP. We like to encourage our young writers as well, and with other programs like that, and the Young Writers Storytelling Workshop, which will also take place on May 16th, 2026. So that's basic rundown of what we're up to, and please head on over to UPPAA.org and just check out what we're up to. We'd love to have you.
Okay, well, thank you, Victor. Yes, it's kind of a busy time here in the fall. Victor and I have been working together. Next week is the Upper Peninsula Regional Library Conference, where a lot of the Upper Peninsula authors have already donated their books to be given to libraries. So I'm going to go on a big trip tomorrow to Manistee to pick up more books and to put in my car next week for that. So it's kind of an exciting time here in the fall. But we're always thankful that we get to partner with UPPAA and do these talks. And what's really exciting, Sharon, is that, sometimes, especially this time of year, people are busy. We might not get a huge audience during the talk, but these are recorded, and a lot of people watch the recordings. So they get kind of high traffic. So it's always kind of fun. I always like it when there's sometimes a little less people, because then, I don't know, it just seems more cozy. So, but without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Sharon, who wrote To Be Marquette, and it is a fiction book that reads really fast and kind of, I don't know, kind of great. I like this one, so I'm excited to hear more about it. So, with take it away, Sharon.
Okay. How do you want me to start? What should I?
Well, usually, I mean, you can do whatever you like. I mean, some authors just kick into like a Q&A, but I would say more often than not, authors will talk about like the genesis of the book, like how it came to be, why you wrote it, you know, maybe how you wrote it, how it got published, you know, and then you can open it up for some questions and answers afterwards if you like.
Okay, wonderful. So maybe I'll start with like it from the very beginning of my writing career. I grew up in Detroit. I went out in Birmingham. Steve Lado and I went to the same schools, and I went to Northern. Because for a number of reasons, but I wanted to get as far away from Detroit as I could. And I went to Marquette, and it just really changed my life. I loved it up there. I always knew I wanted to be a writer, but when I was at Northern, I was absolutely would not tell anyone that that was my dream. Like I wouldn't take writing classes. My roommate took writing classes. I know she studied with Vandy Zandy and she studied with Richard Ford but I just wouldn't do it. So I was a French major at Northern. I went to France, but I always knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a writer. And I eventually got into the University of Michigan and I was studying for my MFA. And one of the first stories I wrote, I just couldn't figure out what to write about. But it was my first published story, was a story called Winter Mines. And it was based loosely on a woman I knew in Marquette. And her husband was a miner and they used to go on strike in the winter. And I kind of wrote about her and like fictionalized the story. So really my whole writing career is really thanks to the UP. I wrote a collection called The Long White, which won the Iowa Award in short fiction. And all the stories there are based in are set, I think all of them are in the UP. So the reason I started writing this novel, it was during COVID, and my kids were home. They were home from college, and my daughter was really concerned about climate change. And one day she said to me, "Why didn't you do anything about it? Like, why didn't you do better? Like, why do we have to suffer?" And I was like, "But we did." So, because I thought back to the things that I did when I was at Northern that had an impact on climate change. Like, for instance, I think the first time we voted for the bottle bill, and that was unbelievably, that was amazing to me that actually passed. And I remember the highways cleaned up very, very shortly after the bottle bill was passed. But then the other thing that I remembered, and I guess I always knew it, I just hadn't thought about it in a long time, was this thing called Project ELF. And I don't know how many of people remember Project ELF, but when I got to Northern, it was what everybody talked about. It was in the newspapers, and it was this Cold War program that they were going to build wires, or they were going to build this communication system into the bedrock of the UP. And I was taking an ecology class. We all had to take ecology, and the professor was really against it. And so we went down to a couple of protests and fought against it. And so that was really the genesis of the book, because I remembered Project ELF. And then I couldn't remember whatever happened to it, because I didn't think that it ever was there. Like, I don't think they ever implemented it. So I did a little research on Project ELF, and it did kind of just disappear, though some of it was implemented, but not much. So I started thinking about the 70s in Marquette, and kind of remembered a lot of what went on. But it was really the Project ELF which was the core and the essence of the novel. So that's where I started. And then I just then I just kind of wrote a novel around it. So that's basically the start of the book. I would be happy to take some questions, or I can talk more about the book, whatever you'd like.
I can jump in here for a split second.
Yes.
Oh, good.
You mentioned somewhere in the book the sinking of a large boat on Lake Superior, and obviously this would be the correct time frame for that. I would just like to remind you, because I don't know if I ever told you this in the times that you and I had conversations about the Upper Peninsula, but I had an uncle working on an iron ore boat at that time, but on a different one. And
Oh,
so
you're kidding.
when the news hit Detroit that an iron ore boat sank, my mom freaked out because she had a brother on board one. And it turns out he was on one called the Leon Falk Jr., not the Edmund Fitzgerald. But the
Wow.
interesting thing is that people in Birmingham and Detroit and other places had connections to the iron ore industry, which we always think of as being either Marquette or Duluth or Zug Island.
Right.
And I'm just going to throw this in as trivia because it's fascinating. My mother, do you remember Action Line in the Detroit News, Detroit Free
Sure.
Press? Yeah.
Sure, sure.
My mom wrote to Action Line and said, my brother works on an iron ore boat, and my boys would like, because I'm one of 6 boys, and my boys would love to see it, but my brother says he can't get us on board. Action Line actually contacted the shipping company and got permission. I got to be on board the Leon Falk Jr. So I've been on board walking on the deck of one of those gigantic iron ore boats.
And
But-
and where was it when you went on it?
Zug Island. And so my mom and 6 boys all went down to Zug Island. I don't know where my dad was. Probably working like a sucker. But we all went down and got on board the boat. And I remember standing at one end looking at how far the other end was. They had bicycles on the deck. So if you had to go down to the other end, you could jump on a bike and ride down there. And I remember going, wow, I can't believe how big these things are. You see them on Lake Superior. They're hundreds of yards long, but until you've actually been on one, it's hard to imagine. It's like a city block, and if it floats, it's hard to imagine that it could sink. But of course they can. So
Steve is mentioning the Edmund Fitzgerald, where in the novel and in real life, our ecology professor, Dr. Robinson, used that example of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald as a caution to us to be afraid of Lake Superior. He's like, it's beautiful, but you have to be afraid of it. Like, do not think it's your friend. And I remember, like, I had heard of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald before I went to Northern, but the impact of it wasn't until I got up there and saw Lake Superior and saw the storms in November. And also, I mean, you could see the iron ore boats on Presque Isle. And I mean, I think then you realize how huge they are. But he did use that as an example to us, like, don't play around in this lake. It's not to play around with. And that's one of the first in the first chapters, he says that. The character and my professor.
yeah.
So that's a good question that I have. So did you have a professor that you based this Professor Robinson on?
I did. Dr. Robinson was my ecology professor. And, like, when you write a novel, I mean, I always do. I never think anyone's going to read it, so I don't care about the names. It never occurred to me to change the name. I know. I was like, no one will ever read it. I'll write it for fun. And then I got the alumni, Northern alumni contacted me, and a woman said, oh, we'd love to do a profile on you. And in fact, I work with Dr. Robinson's daughter. And so Dr. Robinson's daughter contacted me and said I was really, really nervous to read the book because this was my father, and her father is dead now. But she said, I saw, like, immediately I saw that you made him a character. This wasn't my father, but you based it on my father. So I should have changed a lot of the names. Never thinking anyone will read it. And then actually Molly Gray, who's the title character, was a woman I waitressed with at the Crow's Nest up at Northern. So yeah, I should have done a little switcheroos on that, but I didn't.
All right. What about the Carusos then? Like, this group?
So-
Were you in a group of guys that you hung out with that?
There was a group, and we used to call them the Nature Boys, and they were Dr. Robinson was their guru, and they were this group of guys who were ecology majors. I'm still in touch with a lot of them, and a lot of them are working for parks. A couple of them live up in Alaska, but like me, they came from Detroit, and this was just a transforming experience to be at Northern. And they did hang around. They used to go winter camping, and that's when I decided I would put them in the book. Because I'd never seen people winter camp before. It never occurred to me that you could camp in the winter. And we went out there after they'd been camping for a couple of days and saw them, and it was impressive, and cold. But
Mm.
again, everything that I experienced at Northern was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, which really I hope I capture in the novel.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. I really liked it. And I guess one of the things I was going to give you a compliment, I thought there was a few quotes in the book that were really good. There was a time like when Professor Robinson is with Molly and they're at this is it the Cine fire and they're walking and he says some stuff about love there that I thought was pretty well done, and that was really good. And there was another quote. Now I was digging around trying to find it and I can't, where it came up a couple times in the book. That was also a nice quote that was pretty strong. I'll have to find it later and email you. But it was, yeah, there were some pretty neat parts to the story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I could find the Cine part, I would read it. But I'll just read the little bit that I started, like the book, because
Yeah.
it just has the idea of how I named the title. I think it was then that I began to think of Marquette as a verb. To be Marquette was to be rid of the person I had been and to embrace someone completely different. Up there, everything seemed possible. In Marquette, it was possible to live that close to the natural world, to live that close to beauty. So that's where I got the idea for the title. When she says that, she has a reflection about that.
And I have a question for you, because I've met people who've gone to school at Northern. I've met people who've gone to school at Michigan Tech. I've met people who went to school at Finlandia, which used to be called Suomi College, which no longer exists. Did you know somebody who went up there, or what drew you there in the first place?
You know what? I just really wanted to get out of Detroit.
Okay, but I mean, you can go to Ohio to do that.
No, you know what? Because, our family, Steve, I mean, we were like, I couldn't have afforded that. We had to go to
Okay.
in-state
Gotcha.
tuition.
Okay.
I couldn't have gotten into Michigan Tech. I didn't have that. And so Northern was a great place. And I went up. I remember I went up with Carol Dubke. I don't know if you remember her.
Oh.
And we went to we just went up one weekend and I loved it.
You went up in the summertime, presumably.
We went up in the dead of winter.
No, really? I actually knew somebody who went there in the summertime, enrolled in the fall, and made it to the first break and said, I'm never coming back, and came home.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, we actually went up, I think, in February because I had to make a decision.
Oh,
and we
okay.
drove up and the roads were terrible. And I remember we stayed at a hotel and we put like beer outside the window and it froze. It was horrible, but I loved it. There was something about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Now, in the character in the book, she likes Marquette so much she stays for quite a while. But how about you? When did you depart, and how have you been? Do you visit Marquette still? I mean, do you?
So I was up in Marquette last summer.
Okay.
And things have changed, but there was still a lot that was exactly the same. So it's funny about that. Like I thought so much would have. I was glad not everything changed. But there were things that were exactly the same. And that was good.
Oh.
And there's still I still have some friends up there and I visited with them. And yeah, so much is the same.
Great. Yeah. I think one thing that's kind of nice about your book is I felt like at several times it could go sort of fantastical, like perhaps like I don't know if I'm reading this wrong. You can correct me. It's your book.
No.
But like how she seemed to have like a crush on the professor. Like you kept feeling like, well, maybe that's going to go into something, or something's going to happen with these boys, or, there's just so many ways it could have gone to a real fiction story, but instead it just seemed kind of like a real true story.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of people said, that they didn't like the professor character because they were worried that Molly was gonna, get with him. But that was never my intention. She does like the boys. And that's really what drives the story, is that she has a crush on these guys. And there's a mystery about what happens to all of them. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments from anybody in the group?
So what changed to cause you to feel emboldened to pursue the creative writing aspect in your master's degree when you didn't want to do that as an undergrad?
Okay, so I was living in Miami at the time, and I was reading the New Yorker, and I read a story by Donald Barthelme, and I just was like, I better do this. If I'm going to be a writer, I better do something about it. So I signed up for a summer class at Florida International University, and I was like the best student. I mean, like I was a brown noser. Like I was so, and I did every assignment, and I tried everything, and I spent hours writing these stories and really trying. And at the end of the class, it was only 6 weeks, and the teacher even said he was only teaching it because he needed extra money. But I went up to him and said, "Do you think I have what it takes to be a writer?" And I can't believe I asked him that. So at the time, I was moving back to Detroit to work for Marty, 'cause I know you know this story.
Plain geometry.
Playing geometry. We started a clothing company, and we were moving back to Detroit because we had a factory there. And he said, take a class at Wayne State with Charlie Baxter. And so that's what I did. And then Charlie really gave me, like, put me on the right road.
So you weren't looking at the New Yorker going, I could have done this.
No,
Okay.
I was like, I better learn how to do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, this is what I want to do. I just don't know how to do it.
Right.
So Steve is laughing. I know that's where I re-met you. I'm going to tell you. So my friend from high school and I, Marty, started a clothing company where we made our clothes out of dispenser toweling. Do you know, remember they used to dry your hands? And
By the way, I would pay $100 right now if you could get me one of those shirts. They were indestructible. They were so cool.
I'll ask Marty. And so we made clothes, like a beach line out of these clothes. They were 100% cotton. They were made in the cotton was manufactured in Opelika, Alabama. So it was, and then you were doing your sunglass company.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's when I knew that I wanted to go to become a writer, because I didn't want to work in the fashion world.
Yeah, and you might not remember this, but you gave me a copy of Jay McInerney's Ransom that mentioned to you that I had enjoyed Bright Lights, Big City, and you said, well, here's something else he wrote, and that was still very early in his career, and I've read everything that he's written ever since, obviously. But I remember you gave me that book, and it was written before Bright Lights, Big City, in terms of it was based on an early short story.
Oh, it was his first one.
It's got some real flashes of brilliance in it, but you can tell that it's kind of still beginning stuff for him. But I think I still have your copy.
Oh, well, you give that back.
Okay.
I found the quote that I really liked when the professor...
Do you want me to read that section? Or do you want to read it?
Well, do you have the same page on page 142?
I can look it up.
That's what I have. Because this is before we find out about, his marriage troubles there. And he says, you think love is yours.
Mm-hmm. Just want to find where I'm going to start. So I'll start. I'll just read this section. So what he does is, do you guys remember the Sini fires? Do you remember that at all? Anyone?
Yeah.
They were, and they burned underground. And so when I went to Northern that first year, everything was hazy a lot. And Dr. Robinson took us down to is it the Sini National Park?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we saw the grounds that were burned, and that part is true. This part is not true. But Molly has a conversation with her professor, and I'll just read that little section. He says, "Do you read poetry?" He asked. "Only in French," I said. "That's very sophisticated." It wasn't. I wasn't at all sophisticated. No, I meant I only read it for French class. I never read it not even when I was your age, but I find myself drawn to it these days. I mostly just have to look up every other word and translate, and even then I don't understand it, I said. I don't think that I'm much different, he said, but I want it to matter. I read it, and when the words, and I want the words to make a difference in my life. You do, I asked? Very much, he said. We mostly read Rimbaud because Madame said he reminded her of her youth, her jeunesse. I found it cryptic even when I translated it word for word, even when I read it in English. I liked it when Madame explained the poems to us, but I didn't think that it made any difference in my life. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean, the winds, the heaven mix forever. That sounds nice, I said. Shelley, he wrote it 100 years ago, Dr. Robinson said. A lot of the poetry we studied in French was also old. I thought that was part of the problem. Life changed. People had changed too. All those writers, those great minds, those artists, the best of their times, all those creative endeavors that reflected years and years of thought and struggle, all of them working on the problems of love, and none of them having a solution, none of them. The bandana made breathing more difficult, and I pulled it down and took a few breaths. I could taste the smoke of the Sini fires. So how does someone like me have a chance? Someone like you? Someone who grew up in a cabin in the woods in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in the middle of nowhere. All those years living with a grandfather who never said a word, never said the word love. How am I going to tell someone what's in my heart? That's the section.
Yeah. And then even a little bit further, it's I love that part when he says, you think love is yours, that you can have it. People tell you it's all possible. You can love and be loved, but it doesn't work like that. Not that I've ever seen. It's just heartache and loss always, at least with me. Yeah.
His wife is leaving him, or his wife is having an affair.
Yeah,
So,
but we don't know that quite yet.
Well, he does.
So,
he knows. She doesn't know.
Isn't that a
Yeah,
really
so-
French thing to do?
To have affairs?
Yes.
Well, yes and no. His wife is having an affair with one of the students.
Right.
It's not very nice.
Okay.
One thing I was going to ask you, though, could you talk a little bit about the end of the book? I'll just ask kind of an open-ended question, because I found the end, I just want to hear more about how you ended it or why you ended it the way you did.
Okay, so it kind of reflects how I felt about Project Elf, was that I never knew what really happened to it. I mean, obviously the Cold War ended, and we didn't need to communicate. Well, maybe now we do, with the submarines anymore. And so I think, as far as I can tell, I did ask a lot of people. It just sort of faded out of fashion. But in the narrator's life, everyone has kind of left Marquette. They've either moved away or they've sort of disappeared for reasons that she doesn't quite know. So she wants to get them back. And in the beginning of the novel, the professor finds a note in a glass bottle with a telephone number on it. And she thinks it comes, and so there is some speculation whether it came from the Edmund Fitzgerald, but Molly calls the number and trying to reach out to people. And so at the end, she goes to the lake and she feels that her friends are still there, that the people will eventually come back to her. And so she knows that someone is out there. And so she kind of feels that they will come back, however, that they will come back.
Yeah,
I don't know if that answers your questions.
It does. It does. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So she has like comfort in knowing that one can communicate, because the whole thing is about how does one communicate. I don't know if you understood ELF. I had a really hard time understanding Project ELF. I thought they were going to communicate with the submarines in Lake Superior, because why else would we be putting lines in the bedrock? I know. So there was this idea or this metaphor about communicating across Lake Superior, which is where the book ends.
Okay.
But I think when I first heard it, I thought they were really going to put like lines like under Superior. But then now I actually read a lot about it, and now I understand it a lot more. I know, don't laugh, Steve. I can tell you nothing.
Shelley,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I live about 10 miles from Project Elf. And we were within the
Gwynn.
10-mile. No, north of Ishpeming on 581.
Okay. Oh, you're right.
We were within the 10-mile radius that they were warning people about. So we had people come up on our property before they actually installed anything. They came up and did a bunch of measurements and stuff like that. And so when Project Elf actually got built down there, I can tell you from a person who lives right here, what we remember is this is on a gravel road. keep in mind, this is a gravel road, but it's a big enough gravel road that it can take trucks on it. So this is a gravel road, and then in the middle of nowhere are these curbs and cement entryways to the driveway that goes into Project Elf. So in the middle of the woods on gravel road is this what looks like is going to become a city that has curbs. We don't even have curbs anywhere near me.
Isn't that funny?
So we all thought that was hilarious. We were warned that there might be, some kind of interference, electronic interference,
Right.
because we were within this 10-mile radius. So what's happened to Project Elf over the years? They eventually closed it down, and it actually was meant to communicate with subs all over the world, not just Lake Superior.
No,
all
and there
over
aren't
the
any
world.
submarines in Lake Superior. I mean, that was just like the image because of where we were.
No. And it's mostly been replaced because of satellite, which actually works better, faster, and more reliable than the what they thought was going to work through the communication of ELF. So the other thing that's happened to ELF just in the last couple years, because for years they still continued to have, it was Navy that would come down, have a presence there. Maybe once a month they would go down and do some stuff there, like secretive stuff. But a few years ago, they turned the property over to, I can't remember now if it's Champion or Republic Township, or it might be both. They turned the property over to them, and nothing's really been done with it yet, but there's talk about like creating a park and stuff like that there. I don't know what they're going to actually do with that property, because again, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And one of the my favorite things, even like when I was an undergrad, I realized this, they would always say a top secret government funded program. But if it was top secret, how did we know? But everyone always explained it. And if you read anything in the mining journal, it always said top secret. And I always thought that was one of the funniest things.
Yeah, I think for most of my neighbors, we were very aware of everything that was going on there all the time. There is a gate, there's a gate, but next to the gate, there's not fencing. So if you're, an area person, you just go in, take your, the four-wheelers didn't exist at the time, but you could just go in, like walk in around the gate that had those cement ways and curbs, which we just thought were hilarious on the gravel road.
Right. And I think that was, one of the big concerns was, or the fight was either you were pro thinking that it would bring jobs to the UP, or you were anti for the environment. But the idea that it would bring jobs to the area was never really explored, because it would have been the Navy. So that was a concern. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. The people who poured the cement got some jobs. Like for a day.
And yeah.
That's good, Shelly. The curb makers.
Right.
It's hilarious if you ever happen to be down 581 and you take, it's called Floodwood Road, and you turn and you go on that road, which is
I should have gone there last summer.
Wide. It's a very wide gravel road. I'd say it's easily 2.5 lanes wide. Probably 3 lanes wide, and it's kept in pretty good shape because truckers use it quite a bit. But you drive down there, and within a few miles off the pavement, you run into the Project Elf site, and it's obvious because it has curbs, and you kind of go, "Where's the subdivision?"
And is there any signage that says Elf or any or Navy or anything?
Not anymore. No.
If they did that, it wouldn't be top secret anymore.
See? I just always loved that, the top secret.
So I have a question. Do you ever make it up to the Keweenaw Peninsula, or do you consider Marquette the end of your travels to the Upper Peninsula?
No, I love the Keweenaw Peninsula.
Okay, so you've been up to Copper Harbor?
I've been up there.
Okay, have you been beyond Copper Harbor out to the point of the very, very tip of the Keweenaw?
I think so, right? Wait, what's the name of the town at the end?
Copper Harbor. And then
That's Copper Harbor.
Take a road past that, because the only reason I'm saying this is that there's 2 different tips that you can go to out there, and one of them has a rocket launch site on it. And all that's there now is a pad and a memorial marker that's been defaced 1,000 times in the last 10 years. But they're used to.
When I was at Northern, I had a friend who taught in the one-room schoolhouse up there.
In Copper Harbor. Okay.
In Copper Harbor.
Yeah.
And so we went out there a number of times.
Okay. Yeah. And it's just an example of they were using that spot because it stuck out into Lake Superior, and Lake Superior is so vast, they could fire rockets and it didn't matter where they went. They weren't going to hurt anybody, no matter what they did.
Okay, I don't think I knew about the rockets, but I definitely went down those roads.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was nothing else to do. We would just drive around.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and she actually lived in the one-room schoolhouse. Like there was the school room, and then she had a room on the other side.
Wow. I know that up until recently it was still functioning. It was the only still functioning one-room schoolhouse in Michigan. And
I thought it was so
kids
interesting. So interesting that she taught there.
Yeah.
'Cause I think she had like 7 grades.
Yeah, and the kids would be in different grades each time, but she wouldn't always have all 12, you know?
Right. Yeah, I thought it was amazing. Yeah. A lot of lesson planning.
Yeah.
Because she went to Northern and got her education degree. It was really fun.
I guess one big question is like, so you wrote this kind of in response to your children. Did they read your book? What did they think?
You know, I have published 6 books. My kids don't read my books. I don't know why. I don't know if it embarrasses them. They've come to my readings. I've done readings, and I've done plays, and they've come to the plays, but I don't know. They just, I don't know why.
Well, maybe it's good they didn't. I mean, it wasn't, like this girl kind of did. She was a little bit busy there at school.
Maybe that's it. They don't want to read their mother, and I don't know. But it's a little like they definitely will tell their friends, and their friends have read the books, but they personally have not read them.
Okay.
That I know of, because we've never had a conversation. They own them, and I see them in their apartments, but they have never said, "Oh, I read this section," or anything.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't test them or push it.
Well, I wouldn't either if I were you, I guess. So you want to tell us a little bit about your other books? Because I know, like you mentioned, the one is kind of a lot of short stories about the UP, but do you have other books that are UP based? You were going to tell us a little.
I have so the collection, The Long White, has some stories that are published, that are about the UP. In fact, Mad Dog Queen takes place in Lawrence.
Okay.
Which based on what my college roommate was from Lawrence, and she used to make me hitchhike up there with her so that she could join the Mad Dog Queen contest, where one goes into a bar and drinks a pint of Mad Dog Queen. Or Mad Dog, sorry. And she was crowned the Mad Dog Queen, I think 3 years running. So there was a story based on her. And that's the story. I have a story that takes place in Munising. So a lot of the stories take place in like towns around the UP.
Nice. Okay. So I think we'll buy that one here for the library. That'll be a fun one to have.
Where does she live now?
She lives in Pittsburgh, she said. Oh, yeah. Great.
And then I also have a collection about Pittsburgh.
Oh,
Stories about Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh is a really different city. Like Detroit, or a lot of the cities in the Rust Belt. It lost a tremendous amount of population during the 70s. But unlike Detroit, the way that Pittsburgh is laid out, because of the 3 rivers and the hills, there are all these neighborhoods in Pittsburgh, and each neighborhood has a main street and grocery store and shops and coffee shops, and that it kind of maintained the integrity of each little neighborhood. And now some of the neighborhoods have gentrified, but there's still kind of this sense that people never left the city of Pittsburgh. So a little different than Detroit or some of the bigger cities, and they blame it on they say thank you because of the geography and also the identification that people had with the neighborhoods. This is all to say that I did a collection that took place in each of one of the neighborhoods in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Kind of moved it around. Yeah.
Wow.
Because they all have their
Well,
own personalities.
nice. Well, that's good. But I know Victor and I would like to have you, since you like Marquette and the UP so much, you're welcome back. We'd love to have you writing up here, right, Victor?
Yes, and join us for spring conference on
I'd
May
love to.
16th, 2026.
I'd love
Yeah.
to. I'm also good friend. Do you know Jonathan Johnson?
No.
That name? Oh, he's got a book coming out about Marquette. He's got a collection of poems and a short story collection coming out.
Okay. All about Marquette. Cool.
What is she working on now?
What are you working on nowadays?
Okay, so I know as soon as I say this, you guys are all going to be like, but you don't really know that. I'm writing a story about the Huron Mountain Club. Anyone got any information on it?
Good luck with that.
Okay, I'll tell you, because again, I had a friend who was a winter watchman out there, and I went out one weekend, and I've always been fascinated by it.
Mm.
Well, I can tell you that I was staying at the Thunder Bay Inn in Big Bay,
I know
which
Thunder
is
Bay.
just outside of there with my brothers. So there was a bunch of, we were all men at the time. So we're all sitting around a table and a waitress came by and overheard us talking about the Huron Mountain Club. And she made a snide comment. And I said, but how do you know who's a member and who's not? And she realized that we could have, and she backed away like she'd just seen Dracula or something. And it was
She knew
kind of
you
funny.
weren't.
Huh?
She knew you weren't.
We could have been. We could have been.
So if anyone has any information on the Huron Mountain Club,
I
because
seem
I'm
to
kind of
recall
making it up from what I remember of it.
either the Free Press or the News actually did do a fairly large article on it a few years ago.
I think I got that one. Yeah.
Yes, but even they said they had a hard time. It's like trying to pull teeth to get people to talk about it. So
this is what I do a lot when I write fiction. So I teach at Carnegie Mellon, and Andrew Mellon was one of the 4 richest men in the world at one time. And there's a huge estate up here called Rolling Rock, and connected to Rolling Rock is a property called Penguin Court. And Penguin Court is named after that because one of the Mellons kept penguins. And we're in Western Pennsylvania, where they should not be penguins. But she was eccentric and she really loved exotic locations. So she had 12 penguins on her property, and she built stone igloos, and she kept these penguins for years. And so the property is called Penguin Court. So it's a short story that I'm working on. There are 2 people who live in Marquette, and they're out fishing, and they see the penguins, and they know that they belong to the Huron Mountain Club. So I moved the penguins to the Huron Mountain Club.
well, I can tell you that the biggest tension you get is you hear about people who want to go fishing there because some of the nicest trout rivers are going through the club. And some people think it's wrong that they are keeping the fishermen from those sections of the river. And that's where you get a lot of conflict.
But I also heard that because it was the Huron Mountain Club and that no one has been there, there's like an old growth forest, and it's actually conserving the land. I don't know if anyone knows that's actually been quite a feat to save that much land.
Yeah.
There is some
Same thing like the
land
Mellons
that
here,
would
the Mellons and the Carnegies saved tons and tons of land here. No one's built on it. So because they had these huge 1,000-acre, 2,000-acre plots of land, and no one's built on it in all these years. So I moved to Pittsburgh.
There's also some private land inside the Huron Mountain Club that's still owned by people who, are local residents. So
really?
Inside the club, yes. My husband used to go up there fishing all the time.
Okay.
And for the life of me, I can't. And my husband passed away, so I can't tell you the name of the lake. It's not coming to my brain right now. But he was friends with a family that had land still on that lake. And so they would go fishing there several times during the year, and could get a pass to get in the fence. And there's also, when you talk about the forest above the area that would probably be around Ishpeming, there's still some really old growth up there. I think you can probably see it if you look on Google Earth.
Right.
But there's not access to it. You'd have to go through the club or through the forest yourself somehow. But there is
Yeah, I
some
just
old
think it's
growth up there.
fascinating that because of these private exclusive clubs, they actually saved a lot of the old growth forest. So it's interesting and kind of shocking. So
Yeah, it goes way
that's my
over towards
fascination.
Skaney. So if you go
Yeah.
above Lance and you hit Skaney, and then if
Then you go.
if you made like a beeline over towards the east, you would go through a lot of that old growth that's still there.
It would be interesting. Yeah. Anyway, if anyone has a passer, I was in there only like 3 times when he was the winter watchman, and it was great. It was so good. I mean, there wasn't much to see that we could see, that we were allowed to see, but it was beautiful.
I just remembered the name of the lake. It's Conway Lake. So
Okay.
Conway Lake is inside the Huron Mountain Club, and the land around it, most of it is private,
That's so
owned by
interesting.
people who just live in the UP. So
I'm
it's
gonna
not
write-
part of the Huron Mountain Club, but it's inside the club.
Oh, that's good to know. I'll write that down.
Hmm. I think, Victor, doesn't Tyler talk a lot about the Huron Mountain Club in some of his books?
Well, he's got one then.
Could be.
I think so.
The
Time
Grave Rat
traveling
book
one
has
that he
something
just
about
wrote.
that, right? Because he was excluded from his Jewish heritage and partly
Yeah.
American heritage.
But I don't know if you know that author, Shelley, but that Tyler Tischler writes a lot about Marquette, and
Oh,
he does
yeah.
a lot of research. He would be a good person
Yes,
to
yes,
talk
for
to
sure.
about that Huron Mountain
He's
Club.
usually on.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah, I
times he's
think
on
he
our
wrote-
talks.
Is it Odin's Eye? I think he wrote that one.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's one of his books.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think
Yeah.
that's the one that's with that's a time traveler one.
Yes, that
Mhm.
is
I think that's the one where he starts off on
Huron Mountain
in the
Club, doesn't he?
Huron
I think so.
Oh, okay. I'll
yeah.
read it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
one's
that
eye.
helps it out.
Well, then I
Odin's Eye.
wonder too, the other thing that's going on in the Marquette area is all this talk of putting in a space, I don't know what they want to call it, some kind of space station above Marquette. And of course, there's a lot of controversy about that. People don't want it here. Shooting rockets off into over Lake Superior is like a no. Yeah. And we also have the Eagle Mine, which is up just south of the Huron Mountain Club. And
Right.
that has its controversy as well. So you have plenty you can write about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty.
There's-
Plenty.
There aren't many places in the US where you can launch a rocket into polar orbit, so that's why the attractiveness of them. And that's where the spy satellites need to go into polar orbit as opposed to east to west orbit.
It kind of scares me, you know that, Victor.
You didn't hear it from me.
With authority, he knows it. There's not even a hint of doubt. Okay. Oh, well, Shelley, does anyone else have any concluding comments or questions or anything for Shelley?
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, so there's a question down there.
Oh, how come I'm not seeing the question? Anybody? There we go. Go ahead. Yes, tell us, Sue, your
Okay.
question.
All right. First of all, I just wanted to say this book is beautifully poetic throughout, not just the quotes of poetry that was written by someone else. And I love that. I love the rhythm of the words. But as a almost Youper, since I've lived here in this area of the United States since I was 4.5, I noticed how tough it was for my mother, a city girl, to adjust to Youper life. And then finally get to the point where she didn't want to ever leave. Did you, when you came up to Northern, did you have a period of culture shock, I guess would be the best word?
Yes. But in a way that I associated with going to college, because I thought everyone had this transformation.
Okay.
It took me a while to understand that this was not just going to college, that I was going to college in this really different place.
Okay. Yeah.
And at the time, still, it was a long way from Detroit. It takes a while.
Still
Yeah.
is.
So it wasn't I was going home on the weekends. We just didn't go home.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. did you notice an accent from the people that were native to the area or not?
I probably didn't notice it then as much as I notice it now.
Okay.
But like, I remember my first Thanksgiving, we didn't go home for Thanksgiving because I don't think we might have gotten Thursday and Friday off, but I don't think we got anything else off. So we went to a friend's house, and I remember some guys that we knew, the Carusos, shot duck, and we cooked duck. So I hadn't really done that before.
No.
And I didn't realize how greasy duck is. So there was a lot of newness to my life in Marquette.
Subsistence living is huge here. And it was
Yeah.
something that wasn't taken into account when the state rules were laid for the COVID isolation, is how many people were adversely affected because they could not get what they needed for their gardens. They couldn't get shells for their guns to hunt for their meat. It was a huge problem here.
Isn't that interesting?
And I'm in the Eastern End, and that's where I've lived my whole life. But there's a big cultural difference that I just wondered how it would be for you at that age, college age, when you are adjusting to not just one thing, like you said, the UP, but also college life, which is so very, very
right. I mean, but the positive thing was I was doing it with a bunch of people who were my age, and we were really happy to be together.
That's great. That's great. And
And I
then
still keep in touch with a lot of the people who I knew, like even my first and second year.
that's wonderful. Did you have another adjustment when you left the UP and went
Yeah,
back?
I think about the UP a lot.
Okay.
A lot. Probably more than is good for me. I actually look at real estate almost every day. So who knows?
Okay. That was just something in my head as I read your book, because you did a fantastic job of
Thank you so much.
carrying the aura of the Upper Peninsula in the book, and I really loved that. And I thought you did a really good job of cultural adjustment.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I really, really liked it.
I'll tell a funny story. Just when I published my first collection, The Long White, I got a letter from somebody from the UP, and he wrote down all the mistakes I had made. And I said, well, some of them I made because there was an impression that I wanted to make. Like I have two people driving, and I said north, and he goes, to go to the Keweenaw, they would have been driving northwest. And I said, no, but I did that because I wanted people to think they were driving, north, like into the wilderness. And I made the mistake of saying, well, wasn't it Hemingway who took the Yellow Dog River and named it the Big Two-Hearted River? And then I got a postcard from him later, and it said, "You're no Hemingway."
Miserable. Oh.
So I had that on my desk for a long time. I was like, I know I made mistakes because I forgot things, or I changed things, or, you kind of create a whole world in your head that's not really, Northern or Marquette, but you kind of, it's a feeling, not so much a facts. And he got me on all the facts. He got everything I got wrong. So, and then told me I was no Hemingway. So I've always loved that. So I'm always afraid to have people from the UP read the books.
You are still writing. Think how strong you are. That's wonderful. I
did read parts of this. I know it's time to go pretty soon, but I did read parts of this in Pittsburgh when it came out. And this guy came up to me afterwards, and he goes, "Hey, this is really great, but Marquette's not in Michigan. It's in Wisconsin."
Oh.
I go, "No, it's not." He goes, "No, it is." And I go, "No, it's not." So, men explain things to me, and I was like, "It's in Michigan." He goes, "No, you got it wrong." So I just I think he still thinks it's in Wisconsin. I know what he's doing. He thinks it's Marquette University, but
sure.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people do that when I say Marquette. So I know that you're my true audience, my Upers.
Yeah.
You'll know what I got wrong.
I think I'm going to go ahead and speak for all of us. I think it would be wonderful if you bought that real estate, and I think it'd be great to have you writing more up here. Because it was just a neat, I don't know, like Sue said, you really kind of captured the time and the place and everything that was going on. And I love the way that your fiction then was interspersed with the magazine, or sorry, the newspaper articles and things. It kept it really good and relevant. And yeah, it's just a great book. So
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I really
yeah, well,
appreciate it.
thank you for coming on tonight. I've just got to give one little advertisement. Next month, we are reading the story of Journey, the Great Horned Owl by Carol Schultz. She wrote it and illustrated it. And yeah, we're excited for her to come and talk about this book. It is juvenile nonfiction. There is no excuse not to read this book. It really is not going to take you long. It's very short and very interesting. Journey has come and visited our library. There's a picture of the real Journey.
Oh,
So
wow.
he was good, well behaved. We had 56 kids come and see him a couple of years back.
Oh, wow,
Journey's
good
now
to see him.
retired. He doesn't give library talks anymore, but when he did, he was here. So yeah, hopefully you'll all come back. We always meet on the second Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. Again, thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Victor. And I hope everybody has a good evening.
You've been watching the UP Notable Books Club, brought to you by the Upper Peninsula Publisher and Authors Association. To join or for more information, please visit us at www.upa.org or www.upnotable.com.